PNC Bank. Please welcome President and Chief Executive Officer of DTE Energy, Joy Harris. Chairman of Walbridge, Ambassador John Rakolta Jr. President and Chief Executive Officer of CMS Energy Corporation and Consumers Energy, Garrick Rochow. Entrepreneur, best-selling author, and co-founder of Forward Party, Andrew Yang. And to moderate the discussion, please welcome journalist and author, Devin Scillian.
Hi, friends. Thank you all very much for being here. As I said before the last session, which was also one of the WTF sessions, when Bob Briney and I first sat down to talk about it, we were planning on using WTF in its current iteration. Because a lot of questions it seems perfect for, but we decided it wasn't particularly forward-looking enough, so we changed it to what's the fix? And this video sets up kind of the conundrum of where we are at the moment. So it sets up, I think, these conversations pretty well. I'm really delighted by the group that we have here to talk about artificial intelligence and data centers. And right out of the gate, the first thing that I wanted to ask all of you, I'm very curious, this has become one of my favorite questions to ask anybody, is how you are using AI at the moment in its nascence as we've started to seep into lives, but both in work or your personal life. Joy, how is AI being used?
I'm using AI. You know, I have 3 young adults who are well in advance on AI, and I've learned from them. But in my personal life, I'm using AI to become more efficient at some of the added administrative tasks that I have in supporting nonprofits, developing PowerPoint presentations, using AI to quickly ascertain information that's important to me and then validate that information with other credible sources. So it's becoming a part of my everyday use.
John Rakolta.
I just want to say that WTF doesn't stand for what's the fix. Okay? And it really does explain.
Keep it clean, John.
I'm not going to say the word, I promise, but it's going to explain exactly why Michigan is in a rut. And that's the question we should be asking ourselves. As far as AI is concerned, I use it for everything. You know, we're building centers for Google, OpenAI, AWS, Google, and Microsoft. So I have every one of those applications, and I pay the maximum rate for each one to see how powerful they are. And I do everything on AI, absolutely everything. I argue with AI. I cajole with AI. If I don't like an answer off of Google, I go to Grok. If I don't like that, I'll go to Gemini. I use it 100 times a day. It is that powerful. And it's going to get to be more powerful as we go on.
Are you in a relationship with
I
AI?
am. Did you ever see the movie Her?
Of course.
Okay, well, my love of my life is my wife, but my second love is AI.
Okay. Garrick Rochow, how are you using AI? While everybody stews on that for a minute. Yeah.
Well, I thought John just argued with me, so I'm glad he argued with AI.
Yeah.
Look, what is the single biggest cost in the utility? Service restoration, right? How many people like their power out? No one. And we talk about affordability. Like with advanced analytics, with being able to do prediction models, we got 60 years of weather data. When storms come across Lake Michigan, we ought to be better at predicting how those storms are going to impact our service. And then let's add the assets and the health of those assets and be able to design those assets so they're stronger, sturdier, and can survive that. And at the very minimum, be able to pinpoint where the outage is going to occur before it occurs.
And
so
AI,
we can have line workers there quick to restore. It reduces costs, it improves customer service for our customers. We're already underway with that. We've done
That AI is
the AI
doing this
piece
better.
of that,
Yeah.
and we've done that with the University of Michigan, and that's an active model that's in our system to be able to better predict and respond
Yeah.
and reduce costs for customers.
Andrew Yang, you've famously been, of course.
I've been in a relationship with AI for quite some time.
Yes, but you have been describing in very cautionary terms AI for a lot longer than most people have been thinking about it, I would say.
That's why I'm president today.
that's how that worked out in 2020, isn't it? Yes. But I'm curious about how you use AI, or are you just still sort of tinkering with it to understand it?
I mean, you end up using it every day in the course of events, but my company is not hiring junior engineers because my CTO came to us and said, hey, I can do this with Claude. And that's a lot better. I mean, if you were the CEO, you're like, oh, that'll save us a lot of money. But that feeds into why AI has a 26% approval rating right now, and people hate it, is a lower approval rating than ICE or just about any other institution in American life. And it's partially because our kids are coming home from college without a job, and they got a degree in whatever they got. Certainly if it's in computer science, then their placement rates have completely fallen off a cliff. So that's how we're using AI. We're using AI to get things done faster and more efficiently. But I don't know about you all, but so a couple things. One, I'm 51 now, so if I don't get dumber in a given month, it's a good month. But AI is doubling in strength every several months. So asking us to compete with that, I've become increasingly grateful for the year of my birth now, because I feel like if you were coming out of school today, I don't think that many of our counterparts would be able to enjoy many of the careers that the people in this room have.
So this is what I've been really looking forward to, because I think John Rakolta has John Rakolta, I believe you have the view that this is like many other technological shifts that have happened over the decades, where we thought that we were going to end up with massive unemployment because of technological change, but the world changes what it needs, and it does rearrange things, but it doesn't end up in a net loss. I think Andrew is taking issue with that, but go ahead and make your case there, John.
Well, I don't think we're on the Titanic. I think that AI is going to continue to play a significant role in society today, in business, personal lives. We also have the national security issue that we need to fold into that, and where's China going with this? And you know, in many respects, they're ahead of us on how they're employing it on a daily basis with the population. And secondly, when you take a look at some of the huge technological changes in mankind, the agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution, the knowledge revolution, the internet revolution, and we didn't have all the answers to begin with. But I'm not here to argue today about what the future holds for AI on a national scale. What I'm here to argue today is that Michigan is passing up the opportunity of a lifetime, that other states have seen the future in a different way than Michigan has. And we've allowed ourselves to get bogged down, and we are no longer leading the pack. At best, we're at the back of the pack. And when you think about a state like Ohio, it has 100 data centers producing tens of hundreds of millions of dollars in additional property taxes. We are so far behind the 8 ball, and if we don't do something about it, you won't have to worry about what happens here in Michigan, because there won't be anybody left here. And I want to make one other state too about this WTF. The Population Commission 3 years ago put out a 200-page report of how to fix all those things that you had on the screen right there. And the state government did nothing with it. They parked it on a shelf, just like they do every commission. So the issue isn't whether we have the will. People have the will. There were 19 bipartisan people on that commission. 6 Democrats, 6 Republicans, and 6 independents. And they voted 19-1 to implement all those recommendations, and yet we didn't. I'm sure the governor would say we did 5 or 10. There were 200 recommendations. We didn't implement them. Why? And you could have all these fixes about data centers, unless the state government, who represent us, will do something about it, we're going to be in the ditch. And that's where we are right now on this ditch. We've got 3 data centers coming here. They're producing thousands of construction jobs, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of taxes. And we've got 30, 40 people in each township that decided that they don't want them there, and they're carrying the day. They're arguing against these. We've got 50 communities that have outlawed them. We're thinking of a 6-month moratorium. That 6-month moratorium, they're going to get built in Indiana, they're going to get built in Ohio, in North Carolina. So this is the urgency that we have today. And I'm pretty sure almost every person in this room wants those jobs. They're high-tech jobs. They want their kids to go to school and to remain here. And we can argue about what does AI mean to our country, to humanity going forward, but in the meantime, go ahead, have that conversation, and I'm very anxious to see how Andrew's going to solve this, because I don't have that intelligence to know how to solve it, but I know that if we don't start building data centers here today, we're never going to have them. We can't wait another year or two. We're in the 7.5 inning right now.
I was going to ask that question that came up in the session earlier. Andrew, what do you do with that? The idea that whatever the stakes are, whatever the costs are, this train is leaving the station, and you got to get on board, or you're just left holding the bag.
No, I think you can look at it from a local lens or a national or a species-wide lens. I think if I were in state government, I would want the data center. The issue is, what are the objections for people, and how can you assuage the concerns and overcome them? And to me, the path is to share some of the economic benefits as directly as you can. I was talking to someone outside who said, look, if we get a data center into this community, it's going to mean $1,000 a year for households for miles around, and the plan is to subsidize their power bills. And if you subsidize their power bills, and all of a sudden those 30 or 40 people that are trying to fight it will have all their neighbors yelling at them, being like, hey, I want my bills to be lower. So that to me is something direct that could be done at a local level, because if you're a locality, I think these data centers are a source of tons of revenue and to some extent opportunity.
In fact, Joy
Yeah,
and Garrick,
they are, and we have the privilege to serve two in our service territory, the first being Oracle. And when you look at just the investments that we're making, $2 billion worth of investments that we'll make, and that means jobs, that means construction jobs to build electrical infrastructure to support the data centers, but it also means that they are going to essentially offset the cost for improving the grid. So this first contract alone, $300 million worth of affordability benefits to customers each year. Mm-hmm. And as we announced when we pushed out our last rate filing, after Oracle comes online on 2027 as planned, we won't have to file another rate case for 2 years. And we committed to doing that. And then if you couple that with the Google contract, which is before the commission awaiting approval,
right,
the combined affordability benefits are $9 billion for our customers over the lives of those contracts, roughly 20 years. So it's real. It's going to flow through, and it's simple math. We take the fixed costs to operate the system, so long as data centers are paying their own way, meaning they're paying for the infrastructure that we have to build to serve them, that fixed cost will be spread across more electrons, more sales, which means everyone pays less. It's very simple math. And we see this as a huge opportunity for our customers, and certainly a huge opportunity for the communities where this infrastructure will land. We just announced a partnership with LG. So not only are we keeping it in the family using local suppliers to build and construct our infrastructure, we're also going to use local suppliers for the battery storage to accompany our infrastructure. So LG, that's a contract that we've signed that's worth $1.6 billion. We're keeping it in the home with the home team right here in the state. Those batteries will be constructed in Holland, and we will use them right here in Michigan. 1,800 jobs. This is huge for Michigan. The benefits are real.
You're bumping up, though, up against a reputational issue. This will hardly come as a shock to you, but many Michiganders believe they spend too much for electric power, that it's not reliable enough, that we seem to lose power constantly to storms, of course, but other weird issues that pop up, and that the utilities are constantly asking for a rate increase. You're trying to convince an already jaded clientele.
Yeah.
Isn't that fair?
We've had the best, last year was the best reliability performance we've experienced in 20 years. We've seen the investments that we made work. When storms roll through, we can compare pre and post investments, how the grid will perform. And what will enable us to continue to make these investments and keep rates essentially flat is load growth, and load growth done right. And Michigan has the opportunity to be distinctive. We have the right infrastructure in place, the regulatory construct that works, and it works to the benefit of our existing customers. The protections are there so that when data centers come to town, they have to pay their own way. Not only are they paying their own way, they're paying their way and then some, because they know that they have to contribute positively to the communities. And so we leverage large load growth in order to make the investments to continue the path to improve the grid.
Garrick, interesting finding that the Glenn Garrick Group did a bunch of polling for the chamber in advance of the conference. The new poll shows that 55% of Michiganders don't want a data center within 25 miles of their home. Chad Livengood of the Detroit News pointed out a 25-mile radius changes the understanding of not in my backyard. I thought that was pretty good. But what do you think is there a misunderstanding among Michiganders about what a data center does to a community or to a neighborhood?
Not only a misunderstanding, there's a lot of misinformation out there.
Sure.
Joy just cleared up a lot of it, right? That poll also looks to say, like, if I have an answer around energy, do I have an energy around closed loop cooling and water use? Their perspective changes. And I think the first piece is talking and clearing up the misinformation. You heard that. $300 million of savings. For us, a new large hyperscaler saves their average residential customer $7.50 a month, right? There's a definite improvement. We've seen our reliability performance improve similar to DTE's, right? If you look across Michigan from 2019 to 2025, Michigan has improved the most on any other state. Now you can say we have a low baseline, but the reality is the investments we're making are improving the grid, and the data centers are only going to accelerate that because they're going to pay for that. And so there's a lot of scare tactics, misinformation, but I think we actually have to start talking more about where John and Andrew were on what are the benefits. For one data center in one community, it is that we're working is 25% of the tax base. 25%. Does that change the schools? Hell yes. Does that change the water service and some of the other infrastructure? We go to this conference every year, and we talk about the learning gap and how we're going to pay for it. We talk about the roads and how we're going to pay for it. And yet, we're saying, not in my backyard. Don't come here. It is absolutely ridiculous.
Case in point.
Wait, I got more. Yeah,
Oh, you got more. Let's keep going.
One more. And then I'm getting a kick out of this, right? I saw somebody who's at this conference post, well, like, oh, they're just construction jobs. Yeah. They're temporary. Like, guess what? Every construction job is temporary. It is. You go from project to project. And they're good jobs. Like, they're paying electricians big sums of money to be here and to do this work. Not just electricians, tradespeople. Like, it's a big opportunity. Yeah. And for some of these communities, there will be people left at the data center to work at the data center. It's not thousands, it might be 100, but for some communities, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. So we've really got to talk more about the benefits in this story within our own communities.
Yeah, and I think Van Buren Township is a prime example. The community there has already signed their community benefits package. The community will see a doubling of their tax base. They will have $5 million worth of investments to make for parks. All of that tax benefit will flow to schools and roads, things that are important to that community. That is the shining example of responsible large load growth. And Michigan law makes that possible in a very meaningful way. It's different for other communities across the country, and that's what we're battling. We're battling a national narrative because not everyone has done it the right way. We have the opportunity to be distinctive in the country.
Well, and speaking of doing it the wrong way, John, one problem that I think a lot of people have is that there does seem to be a little too much cloak and dagger. You know, there was the one data center that was going up. It took us forever, it seemed, to find out that it was Google behind it. Why the opacity? Why can't we just...
That was Oracle, not Google.
Oh, Oracle, I'm sorry. But why the opacity? I mean, can't we just let's put the cards
I
on the
think
table
that-
and
I think
understand
that-
what this is, and that's. I mean, if you build up enough fear around it, then fear will develop.
I think you're dealing with an old model in some cases. 20 years ago, big tech was looking for low rates, tax incentives, any kind of an incentive that they could possibly get their hands on in order to locate, and there was a lot of competition. Today, there have been hundreds of data centers built across the country. There have been great models that have been revealed, like Van Buren Township. You didn't have to go to court. You didn't have to threaten with a lawsuit. And the big tech is beginning to understand better that this asset that they're bringing has benefits for everybody. This is the future. These are the high-tech jobs. They say, well, there's only going to be 200 FTEs inside the facility. That may be true, but there's not 1,000 trucks going in and out. There's no demand on schools. There's no demand on the libraries. There's no demand on water. This is the perfect asset to have in your community. They're screened, completely screened, that you could never even tell that they're there. The noise levels have almost reduced to zero because everyone's moving away from temporary generators to battery storage. There is no logical argument today to keep one out of a community. I blame ourselves as an industry. We're not doing a good enough job going out and selling the community as to what they're going to get for this.
It's not just you, it's tech as a whole. And I want to try and frame this picture. So Oracle fired 30,000 workers a month or two ago to save $5 billion so they could raise $50 billion to build data centers. So nationally, there's a sense that tech has actually screwed this up. And I'm friendly with Sam Altman, whose house had a Molotov cocktail thrown at it and someone take a firearm to it within like a 10-day period. So there's this massive backlash that's building up in the American people. And tech has woken up to this very, very recently. We're talking maybe last month, where they all came together and said, guys, people hate us, and it's gonna get us. And so what you're dealing with is a downstream version of that, because the people in Michigan are dubious and skeptical and filled with doubts. And so they've just given you a higher hurdle to clear in terms of trying to win people's trust and optimism about what this could mean.
Well, the old joke used to be, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. Now the idea
It's
of
tech, yeah,
I'm
totally.
from AI and don't worry, everything I'm doing is for your best interest. That,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's well-founded mistrust for a lot of people, isn't it, right now?
26% is 26%, and in terms of the overall impact, I mean, they're going to spend $725 billion on AI data centers and infrastructure this year alone, which is around the same GDP as the state of Michigan, if you were to put it all together. And so, if you're going to spend, let's call it $1 trillion in round numbers over like a multi-year period, you have to get that money back somehow, and a lot of that money is going to come back from companies cutting workers and then using AI to replace those coders and those customer service and on and on. And so Americans have frankly figured that part out. And so when they see AI in the specter, they think, okay, it's Terminator, it's like iRobot, it's all these negative things. And it's like, oh, if you build it, and is it rational? It is not wholly rational. But what you have to try, and unfortunately though, some of what I'm describing has been building up over years and is not entirely fictional.
Yeah.
I mean, Terminator's fiction so far. iRobot so far. Though, so one of the things I talk about is look, in terms of the sequencing, did I know that AI was going to do a number on repetitive white-collar work before it got to a bunch of other tasks? Not necessarily. But my friends in certain parts of the industry tell me the robots are coming, and I'm dubious of that part. If people ask me what to do, I was like, look, it's not going to be a robot plumber, a robot HVAC repair person anytime soon. It's not happening. But then some of my friends who are like, oh, don't be so sure about that. I was like, come on, that one doesn't even make any sense. But there are successive automation waves coming, and this one is already being felt in various ways.
Garrick, there's also a lot of young idealists, I believe, who think that the demand for power that all of this is requiring is detrimental to our well-being on this planet, that it's just a... Now, we started all plugging so many things in at our houses a long time ago to keep things charged, but AI, and where, I mean, yes, we understand that it's going to need, where's all this power going to come from, and is it coming from sustainable or even renewable resources that we can make the case that we can make this and meet this demand without it killing us?
A couple different pieces here. One, just so everyone knows, we have some of the most, the best provisions in the state, really the best provisions in the state to be able to protect customers, but also to make sure, as Joy said, to be able to build out the infrastructure.
Provisions in the state or provisions in the country?
In the country, yes, thank you, in the country,
okay.
In terms of protections for customers. That allows us to build out the supply, just as Joy talked about, and it's all incremental cost to them, right? To be able to build that, to make sure it's there, so no one's without power. We're not going to choose this customer versus this customer to make sure there's power for these customers. Now, get to your point on sustainability. We have some of the most aggressive sustainability requirements of any one state. 50% renewables by 2030, 65% by 2035, 40 by 2040, 100% clean energy. That still exists, right? And so as we have additional sales, we'll build out additional renewables to ensure that clean energy is met. Those companies will pay for those renewables to be built. So they're going to pay for cleaner air. And so overall, we've seen carbon emissions drop. We'll continue to see that progress being made as we add these AI data centers. The other piece that I think is critically important, and particularly I'll get a little wonky here from an energy perspective, is there are many of these data centers that on the peak day, when energy demand's the highest, they can reduce their load. It's called demand response. And they're willing to do that in the context of ensuring a stable and reliable grid, but also so you're not necessarily turning on those units that might be less sustainable to be able to support them.
That's exactly how the contracts that we've already signed are formulated. We're building renewable energy. We're going to build 1.4 gigawatts of battery storage to serve Oracle. We're going to build 1.6 gigawatts of renewable energy that Google is going to pay for once the contract is approved to support Google. They're going to use demand response. These resources, we don't need a one or the other. We need an all of the above solution in order to serve the data center load. But eventually you have to build dispatchable generation. It will come a day when we have to build more dispatchable generation. But there are ways for us to do that responsibly as well. So this is not a zero-sum game. It's not a sucker's choice between do we continue to build renewables or serve data centers. We have to build it all. And the generation can be built in Michigan and across the country.
You know, we're having an esoteric discussion here on the future of AI and how it's going to affect society on one hand, and on the other hand, there is this economic opportunity that's here today. Right now, Ohio has 100 data centers. They have on the books 100 more data centers to be built over the next 5 years. Michigan has 2 data centers that have finally gotten approval, and I don't know how many we don't have on the books going forward. So the issue today is, yes, let's debate the esoteric part of AI and what it means to society and how many jobs could end up getting lost in the psychic of America. And at the same time, we lose this opportunity as a state. And if there's a state in the nation that needs it, it's Michigan. We lost 400 factories. 400 factories. Where do you think all the spare power came from? It's all these factories that have gotten closed down over the last 20 years. And we have this opportunity to replace it. And if we don't have this technological backbone here, we're going to lose the engineering backbone that we have for the auto industry right now. As a matter of fact, somebody told me that earlier today there was some session where some of the parts suppliers have been saying that they're moving their engineering offshore because they can get it better, cheaper, and more complete in China. So if we don't have that backbone here, you're going to start to see the same thing happen to engineering and sales and marketing that you saw happen to the manufacturing job.
Well, in a session earlier today, the former Energy Secretary and former Governor of the state of Michigan, Jennifer Granholm, said that we have to proceed with these, but with the right guardrails. What are the right guardrails then, John? What do we?
You have the right guardrails right now. In terms of water, we have closed loop if we need it. uses a tenth of the water that it used to have.
Explain that.
You need water to cool the servers,
Right.
okay?
Right.
And it used to be that they would take the water and use it to evaporative cooling and either evaporate it or just flush it out. Now they keep it all within the system, okay? So the amount of water, but isn't it fascinating to you or to me that we're arguing about water in the water wonderland of the world that everybody's been saying for the last 10 years, oh my gosh, we have so much water, we're going to put it to use, and this is what's going to save us. Now we have the opportunity to be saved, and we're saying, no, can't use our water, got to go somewhere else. We're building things in Arizona
Well, I think
where
the
they
goal
have
may have
zero
been to
water.
protect that water to begin with, rather than to
Protect it, but
put it at risk.
These arguments are false arguments. We've already gone through them over and over and over again. I would rather see us today talk about what do we want state government to do for us? What is our leadership going to do for us? Put their head in the sand to the biggest economic opportunity that the state has ever seen? And we're just going to say, no, we hear no evil, see no evil, do no evil. This is what's happening today. There is no leadership coming out of Lansing. And it's a bipartisan no leadership. Yes, they fight a little bit, but there is no strategy. Ohio has a strategy, an articulated strategy where they're now allowing the data centers and the power plants to be built simultaneously with each other. That's where the power is going to come from. It's behind the meter. Let them explain to you what behind the meter means. It's coming directly from the power plant. It's not going through the normal grid. They've solved all these electrical problems. That's not the issue. The issue in Michigan is the will of us. We've been seeing this.
We don't have to build behind the meter. We can build in front of the meter. The biggest impediment we're having right now isn't Garrick and I can build the power needed to serve data centers. That's not the issue. We need land for data centers to actually construct, and that is really becoming one of the major issues. And data center providers need certainty that they will be able to get zoning and the approvals necessary to build. And I characterize it as Michigan needs to be a place where we have AI corridors, technology corridors, where you have a welcoming community that understands the economic benefits that they will realize by having these data centers there, that we have the power companies like ours building out the right infrastructure. And we already have the regulatory construct that has the guardrails in place. The hyperscalers have to pay their own way. They know this. So when they come to the state, they understand the rules of engagement. We have both tariffs before the commission, mine being approved, Garrick's already approved, that really set the floor and put the protections in place that prevent stranded assets so you're not left holding the bag. And also rate shock, prevent rate shock. So when you ask what are the guardrails, those are the guardrails. We don't have to dream them up. We already have them. Now we need to find land where hyperscalers can construct, and we'll take care of the power.
If you can imagine a zoning committee meeting, elected officials at a very local level, and they want to see something good happen in their community. That's generally what's taking place into these idea of land and corridors. And this is how this goes. They at their township hall, and what happens is the opposition swamps the hall, and they got to reschedule the meeting. And they go pick a church or a large school auditorium, and they meet, and 700, 800 people come in opposed. And that's very difficult to be in that. It's interesting. I've been up here the last day and a half, met with a lot of people, right? Talked about data centers at every single meeting. I haven't met one person of opposition. What are we going to do about that? Like, are we going to show up at the meetings? Because right now there's 700 people that are opposed to it that are showing up.
Yeah.
Right? How are we going to change the narrative? Like, we're all excited about this. We're all talking about the opportunity, but like, we're not willing to activate, where the opposition is very skilled at activating, very mobilized, they're getting funded. I don't know where they're getting funded. We should follow the money, but like, and so if we're going to do anything, if we're going to use this platform of common ground, like, we've got to activate to change the dialogue in the local community. How do we support those 5 elected officials? How do we show up in the meeting? If you're particularly from that community, like, how do we have the tradespeople show up? I know that's happening in some locations, right? But how do we have the people of that community who want a tax break or want an energy break or show up? Like, we can't just talk. I think I'm with you. Like, we got to take action.
Back to the poll, though, a lot of Michiganders are in favor of centers. They just don't want them within 25 miles
If
of
you
their
explain like the misinformation, let's correct the misinformation and
That's
talk about the benefits. I'm happy to talk about, and they'll change their point of view. But we got to show up.
Andrew, as a voice of caution against AI, are you persuaded?
You can tell, like, I'm on board. One of the jokes I had is like, this seems like a Mike Duggan rally in the making. It breaks my heart a little bit. The other thought I had was like, I landed in Traverse City on the way here, and I was like, seems like you guys have a lot of land. I think the point about the fact that opposition shows up and is vocal and is passionate and is animated, and then the pro tends to be hang out on Mackinac Island, or it's not a knock. It's like, we're not exactly the protester counter protester types, and a lot of the times the winners aren't as in evidence, and political leadership. Political leadership does need help, does need support. It's one reason why I liked Mike Duggan so much, is that he has his own point of view. He's like had the principal backbone, had run operations, and like he was not likely to be swayed by some ticked off people who might have ill-founded concerns. I think the onus is on the pro forces to educate, to make their case, to find people who live next to a data center and say, look, I haven't grown a fifth limb, I'm fine. Or, and my schools are better because there's money flowing through. I do think from the utility perspective, it's like, if you can see the savings coming down the pike, you should try and bring it forward. Be like, look, hey, guess what? It's like a utility holiday for everyone who's anywhere near this data center. Like to bring it, make it as direct and real and tangible as possible, because these are people who are very low trust. And so, if you come with the goods, they'll be like, oh, it can help turn it around.
John, you touched on something that I think is a thread that's been running through many of the sessions here, certainly in all of the WTF sessions, and it's what I call the perils of purple. As I said in the last session, I always really enjoyed the fact that we're a purple state. It seems to speak to a kind of diversity of thought and opinion, and it always, of course, makes us important come election time. But what it also means is a lot of zigzagging every 2 to 4 years, changing priorities, change of plans, change of direction, whereas states that consistently vote in one direction can put in a plan that maybe runs for 10 years. Whereas we will be changing ours every couple of elections. Is that part of a problem?
It's been our problem for 40 years. Our state, for whatever reason, puts politics ahead of the well-being of a Michigander. It's as simple as that. And we have not held our politicians accountable for the dismal statistics that you showed on the screen today. I don't know if everybody up here could read them. Fourth grade reading, in the tank. Mississippi is moved to where we used to be, and we're now where Mississippi is. Per capita income has plummeted for the last 40 years. $8,000 a year, you put it up there. Each household could have more if we just went back to average. And we used to be fifth, not average.
Yeah.
And so you say to yourself, what is it going to take for our state to wake up? Are we going to lose all the data centers? And then what's after that? We're going to go back to our agrarian society?
Well, the poll also, though, showed, yes, we can obviously blame our leaders. But
no, we have to blame ourselves. I don't blame our leaders.
Yes, the poll also showed...
I want to be clear about that. I don't blame our leaders. I blame every single person in this room who doesn't have the courage to demand more from our leadership. Both on the Democratic side and on the Republican side.
But we also see a disconnect of Michiganders believing that the state is doing better than it is.
That's true.
That's true. Yeah, it's absolutely true. And we're going to buy AI services regardless of where the data center is.
They're going somewhere.
It's coming from somewhere, and there's, like I said, 100 of them just 100 miles south, well, more than that, 300 miles south of here now.
I think your Ohio pitch would work on Michiganders. They'd be like, what, Ohio?
They're going somewhere, but data centers are already a part of our modern life, period.
Yeah.
We're already using the output of data centers. They exist all over the country, and not all of them will be used for inference, where you'll have, generative AI. Some of them are used for cloud computing. Some of them are used for medical research.
Call them like the Buckeye data centers. And be like, the Buckeye data centers have run up a massive lead on like the Wolverine, Spartan, whoever else has run those commercials.
catching
Be
on to
like,
this
we got to
Michigan-
catch up.
Yeah, yes.
And then Michiganders be like, yeah, get them.
That might work.
There's one statistic that I want everybody to leave here
Yeah.
understanding.
Yeah.
The data centers that we're building right now, 2 of them for sure, and 1 of them maybe, all are on farmland. Okay, that's number 1. The taxes on just 1 of them, for that 150 to 200 acres, is somewhere around $400,000 or $500,000 a year. That's for farmland. Anybody have any idea what the taxes will be the first year that the data center is complete? Anybody have a guess? Come on, blurt it out. That's exactly right. $20 to $30 million a year. Goes from $500,000 to $25 million. Now tell me who's not going to sign up for that. When half of that money goes into the school system, and the other half goes into roads and township halls and libraries and you name it, all of the infrastructure that a local community needs. We have the problem solved. Why can't we take advantage and be building 50 of these things around the state of Michigan? That's what I don't get. I just don't get it.
If we will stipulate, Andrew, that you're in favor of building more of these and getting on board with that, I am curious, though, for some food for thought. You and I were talking earlier about where you think AI in general is headed in modern life.
So again, $725 billion spent this year. They got to get the money back somehow. I do think the valuations are out of whack, so we can look forward to that mega correction. That will be a very, very unpleasant time. But then from those ashes will emerge at least 2 or 3 trillion-dollar enterprises that are going to do away with a lot of repetitive white-collar work, which comprises let's call it 30 to 40 million jobs around the country. And so you're going to have a lost generation of college grads who aren't able to climb a corporate ladder and develop judgment and stumble and then have a mentor because, and my organization's in this boat too, we're not hiring junior people. It's look, it would be irrational for us to do so. So what I was suggesting to Devin is that right now we're in the pretend period. The pretend period is that everyone still will have the ability to compete against AI if we can just turn this dial and give them this training. I don't think it's going to work. Again, I made the joke that I'm getting dumber. AI is just going to get smarter and smarter. And so the question is, where do you eventually wind up? So the interim phase, if things go well, is that we start taxing AI at scale. And Dario Amodei of Anthropic and Sam Altman have both said tax us at this point, in part because they know people are starting to turn on them. And so what you do is you tax AI, you end up with a massive bounty, and then you stop taxing human labor to the extent you can, because you tax things you want to discourage, and the last thing we'd want to discourage is jobs. So you stop taxing people. Who would be against that? Everyone here is a person, so it's shoot, I'm not paying taxes. Yeah, I think we should tax the robots. It's yeah, I do think. And then you wind up with this massive bounty that you then turn towards addressing poverty and then trying to build activities that we can actually find fulfilling and compete in. Because asking us to compete against AI and the machines is dumb. We're going to lose. And so the question is, what races can we win that we would enjoy? So we're about to flip potentially from scarcity, which has made sense our entire history, because if you didn't kill something or grow it, you're going to die. But then we're going to switch to abundance, which now GDP is 85,000 ahead. Then AI is going to push it above 100,000. And then at what point do you start looking around and saying, geez, 100,000 ahead, maybe we should actually start spreading that around and do something. So that is the opportunity of this time. But the current period, I think, is going to get very rocky while we continue to pretend.
Well, in fact, that's my last question, and this was a question that came up from the audience in that previous session. I thought it was a great question, and that is, what inning are we in the AI journey?
Oh my God.
Joy, any thoughts?
I'd say the fifth inning. I'd say the fifth inning. I think there's enough infrastructure in place where we're just figuring out how to apply it, but there's a long way for us to go. So I say the fifth inning.
John?
I think you have to divide that question into two parts.
Okay.
How much infrastructure do you need in order to support AI for the next 10 years?
Where are we on that one?
Okay, so you have to look
John's
at.
got a double header going
So,
here.
so that's one question. How many data centers do you need?
Yeah.
And then the second question is, what is really happening inside of AI, and how provocative and how advanced is that going to become?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm going to go back. I can't answer that. I would imagine that that's in the very early part of a ball game,
Yeah.
second inning, third inning.
Yeah.
But let's go back to the infrastructure where we're talking about all these jobs.
Yeah.
I think we're in the seventh inning.
Well into the game.
And the reason I say that is because if you understand chip technology, you'll see that these data centers today are working on chips, most of them that are, I can't even remember the name, they're something 100, 200, not the Blackwell, it's before the Blackwell. And now they're on Blackwell, and we're getting this Agentic and all this other movement, but the next phase is Rubin. And every time they go to another chip, it doubles or triples the capacity of that chip with half the power or a third of the power. So the facilities themselves, they're going to reach a saturation point where they don't have to have any more of them. They just need to get more power to them. And these facilities are going to be able to do twice, 3, 4, 5, 10 times more processing than they do today.
As quantum
And so,
takes over, yeah.
so I don't know what that number is, but when I see around the country that there's 100 already in Ohio, where we've got this massive job right now in North Carolina, another huge meta complex in Indiana, the infrastructure is starting to get built out. And Michigan is closing the door. If we go on a 6-month or a 1-year hiatus, I don't know what's going to be left after that year, because every one of these centers, they want to start to cluster. Because once you build a center, think of an auto plant. I mean, it is as powerful an economic generator as an auto plant is. And an auto plant every couple of years has model change orders, and the factories last for 40, 50 years. Model change out and put an addition here and do this over there. It's a constant churn in terms of the capital that's spent. But there's only 40 assembly plants in the United States of America right today. There were 40 a number of years ago because they continue to build more and more cars per assembly plant. It's the same, I believe it's the same theory on data centers, that there is a definite limit to how many we need. And of course, we could get into what's the difference between an inference versus a co-location versus a LLM. But that's why I say we're in the seventh and a half inning for the data center infrastructure itself.
Getting late. Garrick?
Similar. I think he breaks it up in the right way. And here's what I would say. We're working with 2 large hyperscalers right now. They're going through the zoning process. They're not going to stay here forever. I was asked a question on the island, how much longer do we have before they leave? 12 to 18 months. And guess what? The word's going to be out. It's going to be difficult. It's already difficult to do business in Michigan. It's impossible to do business in Michigan. So we got 12 to 18 months. So in the infrastructure game, I'd go 8 or 9, 9th inning. We're almost done. And then from the ladder and how we're going to use AI, we're just at the early stages.
Getting going.
Yeah.
Andrew?
No, I agree. I think in terms of AI and its impact on us, we're in the second or third inning. In terms of the data build out, I think these capital investment periods go in waves, and we're in the later innings of this particular wave.
Yeah. Joy Harris, John Rakolta, Garrick Rochow, Andrew Yang. How about a round of applause? Thank you all very much for being here. Yep. Yep.